I never imagined that falling behind on rent would completely reroute the direction of my life. That Thursday began like so many others. I sat on my sagging couch in my cramped one-bedroom apartment, eyes fixed on the mountain of overdue bills piling up on the coffee table. The bold red "Final Notice" stamp stared back at me like an unspoken judgment. 2 months had passed since I'd lost my job. Since then, I'd been scraping by on a few shifts at a nearby diner, barely enough to keep the lights on. I'd rationed every dollar, skipped more meals than I could count, and even sold off a few of my belongings. Still, rent had been due yesterday, and I had nothing left to offer. The knock on the door came before I even spotted his silhouette through the blurred glass pane. It was steady, dark. I knew exactly who it was. David Carson, my landlord. He was always on time, always distant. He never lingered for small talk, only showed up when a faucet needed fixing or a payment was late. And today, clearly, he was here for the latter. I opened the door slowly, trying to steady myself. "Hi, Mr. Carson, David," I corrected quickly, offering a strained smile in hopes of easing the tension. "I know I'm behind on rent. He lifted his hand, cutting me off. "No excuses, Emily," he said, voice gravelly and direct, like boots scraping against stone. "We've discussed this." I tried to offer some hope that I'd have half the money by next week, but he shook his head with little sympathy. "That's not going to cut it." The silence that followed was thick and stifling. His stare felt like it was shrinking me, pressing the shame deeper into my chest. Then something changed in his expression. Not kinder exactly, more thoughtful, like he was calculating something. "There might be an alternative," he said slowly, his eyes locking onto mine. "Something that could work for both of us." I blinked, confused. What kind of alternative? Without waiting for permission, he stepped inside and gently shut the door behind him. The room felt suddenly smaller, the air heavier. There was a charge between us, subtle, humming beneath the surface. "I'm not trying to exploit you," he said in a low voice. "But you're in a tight spot. I've noticed you, Emily. You're smart, beautiful, alone." I swallowed hard. My heart pounded, not from fear but something else. Something unspoken and unfamiliar. It had been so long since someone had looked at me like that, like I was seen, not just looked at. "I'm suggesting a temporary agreement," he continued. "You stay rent-free for the next 3 months. In return, we keep each other company." Discreetly. The words caught in my throat. Every logical part of me screamed no. But my tired body, my aching solitude, the constant weight of surviving, they all whispered something different. "I don't want you to feel coerced," he added. "If this doesn't feel right, I'll give you until Monday to come up with another plan." But he knew. We both did. He turned to leave, but before he reached the door, my voice slipped out, soft and unsure. "Wait." He paused. "I don't want to be put out on the street," I said quietly. "But I also don't want to feel used." He turned back toward me. His face had softened. Not much, but enough. "You wouldn't be," he said, and this time, his voice held something gentle. That night, sleep never came. I kept replaying the conversation in my mind, trying to figure out if it was desperation guiding me, or something else. David wasn't unattractive. He had that sturdy, self-assured presence, broad shoulders, maybe mid-40s, with a kind of rugged confidence that spoke more than words. Not my type, but maybe I didn't need my type anymore. Maybe I just needed someone to notice me. The next evening I climbed the stairs and knocked on his door. He opened it, eyes scanning mine like he was waiting for me to change my mind. "I'm not sure what I'm doing," I admitted. He stepped aside without pressing. "Then we'll take it slow." What followed between us didn't feel rushed or sleazy. He didn't pounce or make crude remarks. He poured 2 glasses of wine, asked about my art, something I hadn't shared with anyone in years, and when I talked, he listened. Really listened. When I laughed, he reached for my hand. His thumb brushed gently over my skin, and my breath hitched. Not in fear, but in surprise at how much that small gesture mattered. The first kiss didn't feel like payment. It felt like something sacred. Two strangers drifting toward each other, finding something grounding in the closeness. His lips were warm, restrained but craving more. When he pulled me into his arms, it wasn't about obligation. Felt like healing. Weeks passed quietly. We never gave it a name, never spoke of it aloud. But it grew into something more than physical. He made breakfast. I'd leave sketches on his table. He'd scribble little notes in the margins. Thoughtful, curious, like he genuinely cared. And that's when the fear crept in. Because I was starting to like him. Everything changed one afternoon. I was returning from the corner store when I saw a woman standing at his front door. Striking, confident, and holding the hand of a little girl. David's daughter. He didn't see me. But I stood frozen behind a tree, watching as he opened the door with a warmth I'd never seen before. He smiled differently with them. Familiar, soft. That night I asked him, who was she? He didn't lie. My ex. And our daughter. I nodded slowly, doing my best to hide the sting blooming in my chest. So what am I to you, David? He held my gaze for a long moment. You were someone I didn't expect. It wasn't an answer. Not really. Just confirmation that this, whatever it was, had an expiration date. I was just a chapter. Not the story. The next morning I packed quietly. I left the spare key and a sketch. One of us sitting on his kitchen table. No message. Just silence. Within a week, I found a new apartment on the other side of town. Shared space, tiny room, but it was mine. The rent was still tight, but I paid every dime. No deals. No lines blurred. Sometimes late at night I still think of him. His hands. His voice. The way he held me like I was worth something. And maybe I was, for a moment. But I learned something deeper. Feeling desired is comforting. But being respected, that's everything.